Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining into this live broadcast where I have the opportunity to interview one of my favorite people who is also a candidate that is running for the South Carolina House of Representatives, District 25. That would be Pastor Wendell Jones, also known as candidate Wendell Jones. And we have an opportunity to lean in with him, learn more about him, because guess what? We have one more day, one, meaning tomorrow before we go to the polls and vote on our candidate for this upcoming election. And Pastor Wendell Jones, now is really the time for us to pay attention. Um, we have so much that's going on in not just on the local level, but on the national level, on the state level. And we have to put people in position that will be able to make decisions about issues that we care about. So we're giving you this platform so that we can learn about what is important to you, what you think is important to the district, and so that we can learn more about you as our candidate. So let me start off by saying thank you. I appreciate you being here.
Well, April, I appreciate you conducting this interview, and I'm excited about the chance for the district to hear my voice. When you're running, you got a lot of people speaking for you.
Okay.
People that you've sanctioned to speak for you, but it's a much larger crowd that's speaking for you that really don't represent you nor how you feel. So I really want to give the people a chance to hear my voice, hear my thoughts on some things, and maybe it will distinguish myself between the other candidate and help them to make an informed decision for tomorrow. So fire away. Let's talk.
Okay, well, let's do this because we do want to hear from you. So one of my first questions for you is I want to know, how long have you lived in Greenville?
That's a good question because the streets are wondering, am I really a district guy and all that?
Yeah. We're wondering, where did you come from? Where you been?
Right. I've heard that question, and I moved to Greenville in 1994, and I moved to the district in 1995. Okay. So that means I've been a resident of the district. What's that? Let me do my math right. 27 years. My first house I ever bought was in Canterbury subdivision, and then the house I currently live in on Piedmont Golf Course Road. So I'm not on. I feel like 27 years is long enough to make me a Greenvillian. I hope others agree with me. And as I said, I've been in the district all but 1 year of my time here in Greenville. But what brought me here was my job. When I left Wofford College, I was lucky to get a job with a former bank that's now Wells Fargo, but it used to be Wachovia. I'm sure some folks remember Wachovia Bank. Great bank. And when they hired me, April, they allowed me to go to my dream city. Everybody's got a dream city you want to live in when you graduate college. And my dream city was Atlanta. I was down in the A, having a great time. Young dude, 23 years old, doing well, working right there off of Peachtree, the main Peachtree, having a great time, learning a lot, moving pretty rapidly in the organization. And they gave me the option of staying in Atlanta. And they kept saying, Atlanta's better for you, Wendell, because there's more people like you that looks like you in Atlanta. And so you have a better chance to grow and thrive in Atlanta. But then there was another option, an option to come back home. And that thing really began to prick at my heart because I've always had this notion, even as a child, April, that there was something I was supposed to do for my community, for people that look like me. And why do I bring that up? Because if I were to accept the South Carolina option, I was going to come back and I was going to be the only Black banker doing commercial loans. It's going to be a trailblazer. Anybody's ever been a trailblazer, trust me, it's not for the faint of heart. So I had to come back and convince primarily older white men to trust me with their money and trust me with my advice to how to run their business and what types of financial packages to get together. I was willing to put myself through that gauntlet course because what kept motivating me, April, is that if I do well, it will make it easier for folks to come behind me, folks that look like me. And so that was my commitment. And so while doing that, I had the opportunity to mentor other Black bankers and help them also get into the commercial side of the bank. We typically had Black folk on the retail side of the bank working in the branches, but I wanted to prove to them that we can work all areas of the bank. And so I was able to do that. So that was what motivated me to come back to South Carolina and leave the A But that's been a part of my personality, and I'm glad that I was able to help others be given the consideration that they could handle the pressure of the commercial side of the bank.
Well, I'm glad that you actually brought that more to light. Excuse me, because I think it is a valid question. Because people have been asking, who is he? Where did he come from? And then you did decide to get into the race. I think was it March that you decided?
I did. I'm chuckling because that's been a humbling statement. I've been here for a while. I've been on just about every board of directors that you can think of, from Urban League to Phyllis Wheatley to just a whole bunch of stuff I've done, and also been able to pastor in the city. But it was humbling to realize that maybe I wasn't visible enough,
Okay.
so that people, and many people said they knew of my name, but if they didn't attend my church or didn't attend some of the things I put on for the community, they weren't given the opportunity to really know me as a person. So I realize now that's a legitimate question, absolutely legitimate
So
question.
let's
That's legitimate.
so being that that is a legitimate question, let's kind of jump off of that. So
Right.
one of the criticisms that I've heard about your campaign is that you aren't from the district. And you just, told us that, hey, your first house was in Canterbury and now you live off of Piedmont Golf Course Road.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that when people believe or feel that you aren't from the district? How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, just having lived there for 27 years, I thought that would kind of at least make me an honorary, if not considered a
Hmm.
member of our district. But let me tell you why it really concerns me, and it's not so much that it's directed at me. I'm thinking about long term, and here's why my concern is, April. Right now, the district is about 49% black, so we,
Okay.
so we are a minority majority district. Uh, and watch this. Next month, we might be 48% black. 6 months, we might be 47% black. Here's why I'm saying that. It's because the district has been targeted for growth. Housing developments are popping up all over the district, and people who don't look like us are flocking to the district. And
Okay.
so that number is changing, 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 changing. Now, one of the things that I want, if I'm allowed to become the representative and add more leadership to the district, one of the things I think we need to do to protect that majority ratio is that we've got to be inviting, attractive to other black families who move to Greenville or who move around Greenville. We want the district to be the place that everybody wants to come and live and work. Now, if we keep putting that message out there that if you aren't born in the district, what are we telling the people who want to come and move into the district? Are we telling them you can come buy a house, but you can't leave? You can put your business here, but you can't really have a voice because only the people who were born here can have a voice. I think that would be very short-sighted on our part because the other groups are coming. They're coming. They're coming. They're buying homes and they're tampering with the number, pulling that number down. And so if we keep making it seem as if that only the homegrown people can come and be contributors in the district, then we're going to end up losing our appeal to them. People that are able to help us grow, help us lead, help us make better decisions, help us employ our people, build their businesses there. They may not want to come to a district that tells them you can buy property here, but because you weren't born here, we're not going to allow you to have a leadership position here. I don't think we really want to send that message. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes really good sense to me. And that actually is a great segue to the next question that I want to ask, because when you think about leadership and what leadership looks like and people who are actually involved in the community or have their ear to the ground, I'm thinking that you do know some things about the district firsthand or that you've heard from other people, because you've just been involved. So I understand that, one, let's just be clear that you do live in Greenville. You do live in District 25. Your first home was purchased in District 25, and you've shared your sentiments about, about the criticisms about your campaign being that you aren't from the district, but you are. Um, so you're from the district. You've been hearing from the district. What do you think, candidate Jones, is the greatest threat to the district? And then what do you think is the greatest threat to our state?
Oh man, it's a great question. And my the big issue, and I will come back to this. The big issue is that there is a serious concerted effort trying to minimize, restrict, if not totally get rid of our right to vote. It is happening right now. It's happening on the national landscape, and all that's trickling down into the different little things from redistricting and redistricting and doing all types of little political maneuvering to try to minimize the vote of minority people, which allows the Republicans to take control. Let's come back to that. But the more difficult subject, but the more right in your face subject that we need to address in this district is the topic that I would listen. This topic I was told to not even talk about because people had the nerve to tell me, to try to advise me that this was going to be over the heads of a lot of people. And I'm like, you underestimating our folks big time. This is not over their heads at all. And that topic is the topic of economics. Economics. And when I say economics, I'm talking about the ability for every single household in the district to manage itself. That's what economics means. It's not talking about the big picture. Economics at its core is that we have to have a system in place that allows every single household to manage itself. Not only manage itself, but to be able to participate in every little economic thing that's going on in Greenville. And so that thing is very concerning to me. And so part of my plan that I call Commitment 25 was to really hit that on a two-front basis. One, very grassroots, is that my background or what I do outside of being a pastor and outside of running my own company is that I have a second company that serves kind of as a consulting arm that allows me to train entrepreneurs. That's my passion. Why did I get involved in training entrepreneurs, minority entrepreneurs? Because right now, I train them at Greenville, I train them in Columbia, I train them in Charleston. That's been wonderful because it let me see the whole state and the different economies. The economies are different in Greenville from Columbia and Charleston, but the issues are still the same. The reason why I'm passionate about it is that in my research, I love us. So I study us and I study what we need to be able to compete in this world that keeps trying to erect barriers that keep us locked out. The one equalizer that even America respects and the world respects is that good old dollar. Economics. If you study our history, in the past, we were kind of forced to hunker down and to build economies within ourselves. And then we were invited to participate on a grander scale, and we haven't really circulated our wealth, haven't supported one another really like we should. And so on a grassroots level, I want to be a champion for us to really empower, to really support, to really search for funding for our businesses, our small businesses. Here's why. Statistics and history shows that when our businesses, whenever, let me say it like I really mean it. Whenever an ethnic business does well, it has a tendency to hire and develop its own. I say an ethnic business because we can look around at all these other ethnicities, from Hispanic to Jewish to whatever you want to call, and whatever ethnicity it is. They support their own, and so they build wealth within themselves. People are under the illusion, April, that we have this one economy. We don't. We have multiple small economies that contribute to the whole picture. And most of those small economies are based on ethnicities. This is why you can go to a large city and find a Chinatown. This is why you can go to a large city and find a little Havana. You can go to a large city, and even our brothers and sisters now that are coming over from Africa are using the same premise. We ain't got to go to a larger city than Greenville. You just drive down White Horse Road. Drive down White Horse Road, and you see the impact of the Hispanic community. Mm-hmm. They are building businesses so they can build an economic base. And through that economic base, you go into their stores, you go into their restaurants, go into their grocery stores. They are employing their own. And so they're circulating the money within themselves. And they're not only, watch this, April, they're not only building an economic base, but because they are concentrated in an area, because there is a defined geographical area where they're building wealth, guess what they're also building? A political bloc. Politics are based on location. The district, picture behind me, that is our demographics. That's our geography, rather. Imagine if we focus on supporting one another in that geographical region. We basically create our own economy to support each other where we can thrive and do well and grow and become attractive to other people that look like us because they realize that they got it together over there. They support you over there. I want to buy my next house there. I want to relocate my business there. And I say that intentionally because I've already started talking to some of our successful Black businesses here in Greenville and throughout the state who want, those in the lower part of the state who want an office in Greenville. I'm telling them, you got to come to the district. Why? Because we're trying to build this community that takes care of itself. And once we gain economic strength, then we gain political strength because you can't roll up in the district and do whatever you want to do because we control the resources. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I just want to make sure that I recap what you just said, just in 2 words. So the question was, what do you think is the greatest threat to the district and to the state? And you mentioned 2 things. You said voting rights.
Yeah, we can circle back to that. But the thing that's got my blood pumped, as you can see, is right. That we've got to build an economic base because through an economic base, our ownership amplifies our voice. We have to own the district. We have to own the district residentially, and we have to begin to own the district from a business standpoint. And when we do that, we have greater influence on what comes into our community. That's on the entrepreneurial side. That's on the residential side. We can do that. And I've already got in my plan, I've got it where we're going to do more financial literacy programming to get our people up to scale, to make sure they're not taking advantage from people who swoop in our community and offer these crazy deals to us so that we can grow and be able to manage our households. But not even just that, April. I've already began to talk to the leaders out at SC Tech, which we still affectionately call Donaldson Center, and setting up meetings with the people in Grove, the other industrial park, and talking to them about the importance of really taking an ownership stake in the district in which they're housed, with the ultimate goal of providing jobs that provide a livable wage. A livable wage exceeds the minimum wage they're targeting. They're targeting $15 minimum wage, but to afford an increasingly expensive Greenville, a livable wage is about $21, $22 an hour. Michelin is very close to that. But also when I pitched that to the folks out at SC Tech, they didn't blink. They thought that was a great idea because most businesses want to employ people that live closer to their businesses because that lowers turnover, that increases commitment to what goes on right in that area. It's easier for people to get there and to go to work and back and forth. And so we've got some opportunities there. Lockheed just won the F-16 contract. Watch this. This is going to be a little disturbing. They won the F-16 contract where they're going to up through 2040. And so they now are petitioning or soliciting for 300 job applications. That's wonderful news. But here's the problem. Most of those jobs require certification. Here's the solution. Greenville Tech provides that certification. Mm-hmm. Our people aren't aware of that. There's a disconnect there. I want to bring that together. I want Greenville Tech to be a partner with District 25. Why would they want to do that? Because Greenville Tech wants to be a partner with Lockheed. And so Greenville Tech looks better when it's helping the citizens around Lockheed be skillful enough to apply for those jobs. But Lockheed is impatient, like most businesses are. So if you go check out their website, if you go to their job fairs, you know what they're offering, April?
What's that?
They're offering a $20,000 relocation fee, relocation bonus, because they're already predicting that they can't get it from the district. They can't get it from Greenville. And they want the job so badly, they're willing to give you $20,000 up front to help you move. What if we negotiate some of that money to be a signing bonus for folks who just live 5 miles away, the folks who just live 8 miles away in the district, who are now making $35, $40 an hour right here in the district because we made a connection with Greenville Tech, and now we're in their certification program. There's a connection right out of high school, right to Greenville Tech. Our kids that aren't going away for a 4-year school can actually go 2 months to 12 months to get this certification, and they are immediately making 60 grand. What would that do for our community? What would that do for home ownership? What would that do for the churches there? What would that do for the people who can support the corner store? So now the corner store there can expand. What would that do for the barbershop and the beauty shop that's there? They got people who can afford to come. And so everybody, the community really can grow. And so I'm talking real fast, but trust me, this is doable. This is why we applaud and get excited when we learn about Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, because they did the same thing. They were forced to because they weren't able to be integrated. But the same concept still works today. And when you have groups that come to America, they do this. The Hispanics do this. The Cubans now pretty much run the political scene in Miami. Why? Because they hunkered down and built a community among themselves, and they begin to buy up the blocks. They begin to own more land. The more land you own, the louder your voice is. And now you get to control the political process that comes from that particular area. We have to do that, April. If we don't, the numbers are changing every day. The demographics are changing. In 10 years, we may not be the majority. In 10 years, it might be easy for a Republican to win that seat. I'm going to stop. I feel like I'm rambling.
You're not rambling, Ash. I hear your passion. I hear your conviction. And you talking about economics and breaking it down in a way that's really, really tangible and for people to be able to grasp and see. Because I know that you've talked a lot about economics, meaning the redistribution of resources. How do we distribute the resources in the state of South Carolina to meet the constituents right where they are, to meet the citizens, the homeowners, the residents of District 25?
And the job politician. The politician has to do dual roles. The politician is going to have to be, this next legislator is going to have to be a recognized leader right here in the district that can do the grassroots things that we've been talking about. Everything we've been talking about so far is stuff we can do without policy, without legislation. But then what you just talked about is that you're sending somebody down on the state level. It's different than the county and the city. On the state level, they have a role to play. Not as big as we would like, but a role to play in what you call the redistribution. Redistribution of what? All those tax dollars.
Yeah.
That the residents of District 25 have already sent down to Columbia. All those fees that the residents of District 5 have already sent down there. And your legislator is supposed to be down there making noise like, hey, I need some of that back. I need some of that back because all that money goes in the pot to fix the roads. All that money goes in the pot to support our school system. All that money goes into a pot to support our employees that work for nonprofit hospitals and police officers and all that stuff. We're contributing to all of that. And so if I got to pick up part of the tab, you got to listen to me. I need to be able to say, we need this because we paid our portion of the bill. That's the job of your legislator. That's why they write policy. The policy dictates how the money is going to be used and how the money is going to flow back to the area that you represent. And you need somebody who understands that.
So one of the, if you want to call it, advantages that I think I have to this political process, candidate Jones, is that I had an opportunity, as you know, to work on the federal level for Congressman then Bob Inglis. So I've worked in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. I've worked here in the district. And people bring a lot of issues, or they did bring a lot of issues to our office that maybe we didn't support on a federal level.
Yeah.
And some of them were state issues, some of them were local issues. But we had to be able to manage those concerns and show that we had a listening ear to our constituents. So some of the things that I've heard while being out with you, knocking on doors and listening to the citizens of District 25, they talked about their food deserts in District 25. They talk about a lack of grocery stores. They talk about potholes that need to be fixed, and they think about the commercial buildings and how they look all worn and torn down. Now, I'm not sure if you can enlighten me if that is a state issue. But what are your thoughts on this on District 25 being a food desert and you're thinking about infrastructure and roads?
One of the things that we see in election is that oftentimes politicians will speak to the complaints of the citizens, knowing very well that their office can't pull the trigger on that issue.
Mm.
And what I mean by that, and I refuse to do that. I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to tell you the truth. And so when folks have asked me about potholes and things of that sort, I make sure they know that the primary responsibility of those city and county streets fall into the hands of their city and county legislators. Those are the folks who have the primary responsibility. Now, on the state level, oftentimes the legislator has access to some money. There could be earmarks, little pockets of money set aside that they can petition and work their relationships down there. I think changed that a little bit. Like last year, I think it was 130 million, 30 plus million in earmarks. And I think this year he only approved like 50 something million in earmarks. Those are little pockets of money that legislators can have access to bring back into their district.
Yeah, Candidate Jones, we lost you for just a second. Your screen blacked out for just a second.
I'm
So
sorry.
if you could just rewind that just a little bit.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that part of the budgeting process for the state are these things called earmarks. And if I remember correctly, y'all, and folks, do your homework. And always Google and do your homework. If I'm remembering the numbers correctly, the previous year is like 130, 132 million dollars of earmarks that were set aside. And these are like little pockets of money that legislators can petition to get their hands on to support causes back into their district. And I think this year they only approved like maybe 50 plus million dollars of that. And so the legislator may be able to tap into some monies to come back and give to organizations, to give towards certain causes, to give towards certain efforts. But the lion's share of that responsibility for fixing our roads, things that sort of fall on the county and the city. Now, your state legislator needs to have a good relationship with the county and the city, and so that when people call our office and say we need some help, then it becomes my responsibility to make that phone call. They say, "Hey guys, what are you guys doing down there with this?" Folks over in the Belmead area, folks over in Pleasant Valley are concerned about a lack of speed bumps. Are you guys budgeting that? What are you doing with that $81 million that you receive in the Biden administration? That's sitting somewhere collecting interest. What are you doing with that? Can y'all allocate some of that money so that we can put some speed bumps in Pleasant Valley? I need to have those conversations. I can't make them do anything, but might be able to apply a little pressure because they might want me to petition for some earmarks down there. They might want me to petition for some funds that the federal government may send down for the Department of Transportation. I could fight a little harder to get some more money up here to fix our roads. And so it has to be a partnership, but we have to teach our people where to start first. And so oftentimes you'll hear in this race, folks saying, well, I'm going to get us a grocery store. Like, okay, how? Because that is a decision of a private citizen, a private company, a private developer. We can't make them do anything. All we can do is try to give them some incentives. We might can play around with some tax dollars, but normally that starts again at the city and the county level. We might can be able to work together to get some roads fixed so the road in front of the development looks attractive and they want to come in, and we can convince them because we hand them some research. Say, look at the car count, look at the traffic count. This would be an ideal place for you to put a location. Look at it. We provide them information to go. We got X amount of residents here, and so your store should get this amount of traffic. We can do those kinds of things, but it can't be. You can't make that happen. You can recruit, but you got to be able to convince these private organizations, here we go, that they're going to be able to make money. And so that's where my banking background comes in. And we can talk about return on investment. We can talk about here we hand you some of the research that prove to you that this is an ideal place for you to build another grocery store. They are not going to do that out of the goodness of their heart. We have to convince them that it is a worthy investment, and every investment has to be proven that it's going to bring back a return. We can do that. We can do that. If you got the right people negotiating the deal, we can do that.
Now that's what I like to hear. You said we can do that.
We can.
And I think right now in this climate that we're in, not only do we need hope, but we need an action plan. And you talked about you have a plan, commitment 25. So this is going to lead to my last question because I know that you have other things that you have to do to get out in front of District 25 before before all of this. What do you hope, Candidate Jones, to see happen in the district under your leadership? What do you hope to see?
You know, I've got a vision for us that has hope embedded in it. But before we get to the vision, April, we got to come together. We've got to come back together. Um, this particular election has taken this district on a complete roller coaster ride. And the different camps that have aligned themselves with the different leaders have kind of dug their heels in. That concerns me. One of the things I have pushed and pushed for the people on my campaign is like, listen, there is an acceptable way to campaign. We're not going to attack people. We're going to just talk about the merits of our campaign. We're not going to retaliate. You know, there's been several things that have happened, from my banners being ripped down to signs being pulled up and thrown away to all kinds of craziness that has happened. And I understand the spirit of competition, but I don't want to burn the house down trying to win. I don't want to tear the district apart so that once we get past this primary, we got to spend the rest of the time trying to heal, and we don't get a chance to prepare ourselves to do battle with this Republican in the general election. So I'm hoping under my leadership that if I'm fortunate enough to win, to extend the olive branch to everybody who's been in this race. And here's why. Yes, for unity's sake, we got to come together. We can't do none of this. We can't do Commitment 25 if we don't come together. We can't do nothing if we don't come together. But not just for that sake. I want us to come back together because everybody that has ran for this office has something to contribute. Every last one of them are gifted and talented in their own way. Although we've been competing up to this point, I think together we make one heck of a team. We would make one heck of a team. And so once this primary is over, we need to love the district enough to set our differences aside and say, we've got to work together. Why? Because the other side is, and that scripture tells us, a house divided can't stand. And there is a concerted effort on the other side of the aisle to take leadership from this district. And if that happens, they don't care about displacing your grandmother. They don't care about that. We care about that. Our democratic values are more so in line with being able to take care of people of color. We have to maintain that kind of leadership. We have to. And so we've got to come together. And so if I win tomorrow, my first thing to do is to begin to extend olive branches to all those who ran in this race. These are people who love the district. These are people who wanted to serve. It's clear by how hard they fought in this campaign. They want to serve. We're not here to question their agenda or their motives. I can see clearly that they're talented. They've all done some wonderful things to benefit not just the district, but Greenwood have done some great activism work. They've done some great social work. And together, man, we could be one heck of a team, April. We could be one heck of a team. And we can make this vision a reality. And I know my vision isn't completely comprehensive. There's room to add what they want to do, and there's room for other people who we haven't even heard from to add what they want to do, so that we can make this district reach its potential.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time. For those of you who tuned in, we do ask that you share this on your social media platforms because we do think that District 25 should be informed about candidate Wendell Jones. And tomorrow, voting tomorrow, if you did not vote on last Tuesday, on I'm sorry, 2 Tuesdays ago, tomorrow, June 14th, you have the opportunity to vote tomorrow in Tuesday's primary runoff election. So please don't be deterred, don't just stay home and be idle. Don't just watch it from your home to figure out who's going to represent you, who's going to represent us. Go out and vote tomorrow. Whether you voted on June 14th or not, you have that opportunity tomorrow to vote. So you can go to University Square, go to the Election Commission office and cast your vote there. Candidate Jones, do you know if polling places will be open tomorrow?
Yes, they are. We are very fortunate with that.
Okay.
Because again, runoffs often aren't budgeted very well.
Right.
But I was told that if you voted on the 14th, the same polling place that you voted will be open tomorrow. That's what I was told.
Okay.
If you get there and discover that it's not open, you go right down to University Square, and vote there.
Wonderful. Well, Candidate Jones, Pastor Wendell Jones, we thank you for taking the time to share your heart with us and more about your platform. We do understand that you are a leader who will stand up for others in the House. And so we are really cheering you on and hoping that you secure the House on tomorrow. So thank you so much for your time.
April, thank you. Thank you so much for the interview.
You're welcome.